Gilgeous-Alexander. McCollum staying with him. Spins, gets inside. Left-handed off the glass. Oh, what a sweet move.
Giddey, tough spot. Backdoor. What a pass. What a play. And J-Dub picks the pocket of Trae Young. He'll take it himself.
This is Udart. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, and welcome to the Uncontested Podcast, coming to you live Sunday, May 5th, as we are now fully set for round 2 of the NBA playoffs. All round 1 games are finished. We actually already had a round 2 game. Weird scheduling quirk by the league to have us get a round 2 game 1 before a round 1 game 7. It's a little strange. I'm your host for the evening. Brought to you. I just mixed 5 things here. I'm the host, Jacob Niffen. We are brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network and the best fast casual restaurants in OKC, Dave's Hot Chicken and Spark OKC. I've got the whole squad with me tonight. Nick will be joining us shortly after he finishes watching his Dallas Stars. But I've got JD Silva.
Who are the Dallas Stars? Fellas.
Got Justin.
Hello, everybody.
We've got Taylor.
Gentlemen, all these other podcasts, they not like us. They not like us.
Hey.
They not like us.
This podcast might devolve into a
We
Drake versus
understand.
Kendrick
Yeah.
beef breakdown if Kendrick drops
My
in the middle
guy
of this pod.
Smoot. Oops, sorry.
We understand pop culture on this podcast.
That's right. Hey, we originally started as a Thunder NBA and pop culture podcast, but
We did
fizzled
one
out
pop
quickly.
culture episode and then we stopped. That didn't last very long. It was a very short-lived. Thank you guys for joining us for in the live stream already tonight. We appreciate you. Go hit that like button. Share the video. We'd love for more people to hop on tonight. Get in with us as we break down round 2, Thunder versus Mavs. I don't think we've podcasted since the Mavericks won their game 6. Shout out to the Mavericks. Also, shout out to the Clippers for just being like a god-awful basketball team. Thunder versus Dallas is set. The I-35 rivalry reunited. We are here tonight to break down that entire series for you, give you some perspective, give you our thoughts, our keys to the matchup. We're also going to do some predictions league-wide for round 2. We have updates from the round 1 predictions, which will be very nice. The man himself has now arrived. Never late, always on time, just like a wizard. We've got Nick Crane in the house.
Howdy, howdy. Stars. It's nuts.
How'd they do? Legitimately do not know.
They won game 7.
Go.
Nothing like it.
No, game 7.
How nervous were you, Nick?
I haven't felt that in a long time. Not even in the Rangers World Series run? No, because they weren't supposed to be good. They barely made the playoffs. The Stars the number 1 seed in the West, and they're not young like this Thunder team. They're supposed to be a legit contender. So
shout out our buddy, Nick and I's buddy, Stoney, who lost money thinking that each of the Clippers and Knights were going to come back in the series, in their respective series. They did not.
Brutal.
But shout out Stoney nonetheless.
Catching a straight on the
parlay in my
Uncontested
life.
podcast.
I've never made a parlay in my life. Let's dive into Thunder Mavs. Bryson McGowan just gave us $2 and asked for a Drake Kendrick segment.
I think he gave us 4.
We were doing pre-pod, so
He gave us 2 earlier and forgot to comment, and then gave us another 2.
We will let Nick do the deep dive analysis on Drake versus Kendrick.
I'm probably the last person on this pod that can give one.
That's okay.
I think
That's why we
Silva's
want
the
you
one
to do
that's
it.
tweeted about 600 memes about it in the last couple of days. I think that's the guy.
I have 600 more to tweet also.
All right, let's dive into Thunder Mavs, gentlemen. Like our round 1 preview, we're going to kind of follow that same format. So let's start off with OKC's 3 keys to the series. These are the 3 things that the Thunder have to do to win this series against the Mavericks and advance to the Western Conference Finals. Last time Nick had us each give our 3, and then we chose 3 overall. This time, instead of each of us giving 3, let's just popcorn around. You can give as many as you want, but let's do one at a time, create a list, and then we'll choose the big 3 from the list. Who'd like to kick us off?
Sign me up. I'm going to take that low-hanging fruit. Perimeter defense. That's what this series comes down to. Like, go ahead and put that one in, Sharpie, on the list. It's going to be Lou Dort and friends against Luka and Kyrie. And what can the Thunder do to take advantage of that matchup? We know that Lou Dort is an elite perimeter defender. He got to show it off last round, had BI in hell. He's going to have an extra tough task this series because not only is there Luka, there's also Kyrie, who's been unreal lately. So it can't just be Lou Dort. It's going to have to be Lou Dort and J-Dub and Queso and probably more to lock down this Mavericks backcourt. It's going to be a tough task. I think what they showed in the New Orleans series was super impressive, but they're going to have to ratchet it up to a whole nother level if OKC wants to come out of this series.
I like that. That kind of to piggyback off of that, I took it a little more big picture and just said defense as a whole. Honestly, for both teams, because there's some stats I came across earlier today that I thought were really interesting.
Taylor's keys to the series: play good defense, play
As
good
a
offense.
whole.
Score more points
As
than the other
a
team.
whole.
Defense,
Play
offense,
more
and special
points.
Show you a hole, buddy.
Score more points than the other team. The Thunder average only 4.5 more points per game than the Mavericks surrender, and the Mavericks points per game average is 5.2 more points than what the Thunder allow opponents. Essentially, each team scores about 5 points, give or take, more than the other team gives up.
Is that possession weighted or is that just like points per game?
That's on the season. Yeah, points per game. And so I think the perimeter is one aspect of that. I'm sure we're going to get into the Thunder's paint protection. That's something else I have here later on. But the Thunder defense is going to be significant. We saw them play so well against New Orleans, but it's a much taller task, no pun intended, against this Dallas Mavericks team. So that's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I think perimeter defense plays a key role in that, Justin.
I'll jump in here with the kind of the defensive themes we're going with. Justin went perimeter defense. Taylor just went defense. I'm going to go a little more pointed and specific on the defensive end. I've mentioned this before whenever we're starting to look forward to this series. I think a lot of like generic basketball thought, especially when it comes to playoffs, is like, oh, let anybody but Luka beat you. Let anybody but Shea beat you. I think it's the opposite. I think you put like Lou Dort on Luka Island and you let him work, but just like they did against the Pelicans, you can't cheat off guys. How you lose a game in this series or lose this series is the game where PJ Washington goes 5 of 8 from 3 because you doubled down on Luka and he was able to find the easy passes for easy shots. Or Daniel Gafford has a 20-point game because you rotate over and double too much and the lob on the backside is there. They're going to run a ton of ball screens with Luka and Kai. The Thunder are very good and like really take pride in fighting over ball screens, sticking to their man, even if they're a little late to get back in front of the play, to like constantly play over the screen. That is a key point to me. I think you can win a game where Luka goes for 45, but you'll lose the game where Luka has 15 assists. You don't want to let the other guys get rolling and let everybody else get in a rhythm. Make them a two-man team. Now, that's like saying a lot. Like, oh, just make them a two-man. Like, that's like virtually impossible, right? But you have to pick and choose what you give up. They're not going to space you out with their bigs, especially with Maxi Kleba out of the lineup now. They really don't have a big that can shoot. I saw Jason Kidd talking today that they could go to Morris or Dwight Powell. And my response to that is, please put those guys on the basketball court. They're not going to space out and shoot threes with the bigs, but you still have to get over those screens. You cannot let Luka and Kyrie get everybody else in a rhythm. You have to make those two guys beat you.
Yeah, I think in that situation, PJ is playing center before either of Dwight Powell
Totally agree.
or Markieff Morris. And I think he'd be actually a pretty effective center against Oklahoma City. Jacob kind of alluded to it. Wasn't necessarily what he was getting at, I don't think, but I think pick and roll defense, which is like the most blanket thing ever because the NBA is pick and roll. Like whenever you look at guys in college or international, how their defense is going to translate, all you do is watch pick and roll tape. That's what the NBA is. But I think in this series, it's going to be super critical on both ends, really. Like, that's an element of the game in New Orleans I don't think we saw a whole lot of. Like, if Jonas is going to score, it's going to be on a rebound putback or that stupid pound the rock and turn around and make a little hook shot. Dallas will score a lot of points on lobs out of the pick and roll. And that's just a part of the game that I don't know how Oklahoma City's going to look. Like Chet's going to muck things up and he'll deflect some here and there. And we've seen some really good like weak side rotation on guys like Lou and Dub, you know, tipping lob passes. But like that's going to be a huge part of the game. And a lot of that's predicated on pick and roll. And if you defend that really well, you know, the guy with the ball in his hands, Luka or Kai, could toast you. So it's like it's a really hard thing to defend, especially when you have somebody like Gafford and Lively. They're both really good lob threats. On the other side, there's the pick and pop game with Chet that I think Dallas will have a hard time defending. I think they have the guys to do it, especially better than the Pelicans. But like that is going to open things up for Oklahoma City one way or the other. Like if Chet's 0 for 5, I don't know. I think they probably play the pick and roll a lot differently and say, come on, shoot 6, shoot 7. Let's see it. So P&R on both ends.
All right, I think I'm up. I'm gonna go. I try not to go with. I may have dug my own grave here with these picks because all of mine are like not easy ones. So I have a fear of all of us not choosing the easy stuff and then me ending up like none of us is gonna say like, oh, Shea has to play well. Like that's very obvious. So I'll go with one that is a little easier, and it's don't let Josh Giddey be invisible. I think that the Mavericks game was like the most egregious example all season of a team just completely ignoring Josh Giddey. Like that felt to me like the peak of the negative side of the Josh Giddey experience this season on the court. And I don't know, that left us with a lot of questions as people on this podcast. Like we talked about that for a long time. And they figured that out, I think, for most of the season. But there were a lot of instances where we all came on here after a game. They were like, why didn't they guard Josh with their center? Why didn't they ignore him? I feel like they could have done better that way. This is the test. This is like they didn't put Jonas on Josh. So this is it. If you see Luka guarding Josh in air quotes for those not watching on YouTube, and he's facing the opposite direction, you'll know we're here. We're here. So I think getting him involved. I mean, if he shoots threes like he did last series, that's one way to stay involved.
Yep.
So,
I think that's what I'm interested to see is like you said, we did see Dallas take a very aggressive ignoring of Josh stance in previous matchups. What does this version of Josh Giddey do against that? Because I think it's different than the version of Josh Giddey that faced that last time. Does that confidence from the New Orleans series roll over to where he sees that as barbecue chicken and he's going to go attack that matchup? And how does he do so? Is it by making him pay behind the arc? Is it driving and kicking? Like, I think there's a lot of options on the table, and I'm very excited to see what he does, because I think you're spot on. If Josh Giddey can bring that confidence from the New Orleans series to force respect in that matchup, I think that changes Dallas's game plan and could kind of hamper one of their potential advantages.
Advantages.
Changes.
I love that one.
Oh,
no, I was just gonna say I love that one, but I actually have it on the other side. Once he finishes this segment on the other side of the break.
Okay, I want to jump in with the Giddey stuff because I have some thoughts on the Giddey stuff as well. So this is kind of the same point as JD and Justin made. I think the Mavs are 100% going to put their big on Josh to start the series. I think they want somebody like PJ Washington guarding Chet, which I think makes the matchups kind of funny. They will have Derek Jones Jr. on Shea. I think they're going to put PJ Washington on Chet. I think they're going to put Luka on Dort, Kyrie on J-Dub, and then the big. Which big do they start? Is it typically Gafford?
Who's Gafford during the regular season a lot? I don't know. I don't think there's a solidified starter at any point in the series.
Whichever one of the two it is, I think that one's going to be on Giddey. They do not want their big away from the basket. Their bigs can guard in space, but if you're pulling their big away from the basket, that's like neutralizing any shot blocking that they have. I think they're going to put the big on Giddey, but actually we're just playing zone. We're playing 4 instead of a box and 1. What is that? Like a
box?
It's not even a box. You don't have 4 people playing zone. You have 1 person playing zone, and then 4 guys actually guarding another guy.
It's kind of like an isolated matchup zone.
Yeah, kind of. Silva, I think you're right on the point here that they have to. Josh has to be effective, and I do not know what that looks like. I do feel better about Josh's confidence level, but the flip side of that coin, if it is not working, I feel like the Thunder have some options that they can play with. Specifically, it wouldn't shock me if down the stretch of some of these games in the fourth quarter, you see the starters, but instead of Josh, they have Case and Wallace out there, and Dort and Queso are the Luka, Kyrie Irving defenders. Like that wouldn't shock me at all either. But I feel like they're going to vastly ignore Josh Giddey. Josh has to make them pay with that 3 ball. He's got to make them pay with that floater. I think when he catches on the perimeter and Luka looks at him and waves him off and turns around and walks away, you got to run up that dude's back and get a layup, right? Like it's not enough to just let them turn you into a spot up shooter. You have to attack them. Like you have to put the onus on them. You don't want to guard me? Well, you're going to want to guard me after I go in and I shoulder check the piss out of somebody and lay this ball in. Like that's what Josh Giddey's going to have to do if they resort to that. And it is a massive if, and if this does happen, Josh Giddey's agent is doing the Birdman rubs hands .gif. If they get to a point in this series where they can't put the big on Josh and they have to guard him with a Luka Doncic or a Kyrie Irving or whoever, and they have to actually guard him, I think that opens up everything for OKC, and the series becomes much, much easier.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Silva.
Before we move on, I think it was very telling. I just thought of this when you were listing out those defensive matchups. You said Kyrie on J-Dub. I was like, light bulb moment in my head. I'm going to just be thinking about that for a while. All right, Taylor, go ahead. Sorry.
One thing that I have, I think this kind of relates to if a center is playing Josh Giddey, because that means that a quote unquote smaller defender, more air quotes for those not listening or listening to podcast more, I'm not watching YouTube. It'll be like a wing defender on Chet, and all the way back, dating back to Summer League, something that, Justin, myself, Nick, and Jacob, we were all sitting there watching Chet in Summer League, and he struggled early with smaller defenders. And we saw that throughout the majority of the season. His handle's just not quite as tight. He's obviously has a higher center of gravity, and that plays a big part of that. So Chet has to be effective if defenders or if teams are going to guard Giddey with their center. So my theme that I actually had listed here is Chet needs to find his offense. Obviously, like you said, Silva, like Shea needs to play better as a given. Hardly even worth mentioning during this segment. Dub's probably going to get his, even if it takes a game or two. But with the Mavs honing in on Shea and Dub on the defensive end of the floor, it'll be more of a committee effort. But I think Chet has to lead that charge with those two kind of being the focal points there. And I think back to the most dominant game of round 1 when the Thunder just absolutely destroyed the Pelicans game 2 back at Paycom. Chet had 26 points on nearly 70% from the floor, was 50% from 3 of 6 from the three-point line. But then you look at his splits from regular season to round 1 of the playoffs. Chet averaged 15.3 points per game this playoffs in comparison to 16.5. He shot 46.8% from the floor, which is good, but that's in comparison to 53% from the four in 82 games. And he only shot, this is the big one, obviously. He only shot 30% from three in comparison to 37% from three during the regular season. So Chet's going to have to step up like he did there in game 2 against the Pelicans, especially when I think J-Dub and Shea are going to be getting so much attention.
I agree. I think Chet's offensive impact, just like Giddey's, I think changes Dallas's defensive approach a lot. We talk about the rim protection that Gafford and Lively can provide. If Chet is forcing them to play not in the lane, either because of what he's doing behind the arc or how they're using him in the offense, that completely affects Dallas's defensive philosophy. Just like Jacob said earlier, I think that's a big if, because I think I think we're going to get a lot of funky matchups in this series that are going to lead to weird stretches of basketball, like you said, where it could be a wing player guarding Chet, it could be a center guarding Giddey. I think we're going to see a lot of experimentation on both sides.
And I think that experimentation has to happen not just game to game, but within each game.
Yeah.
Like getting back to the point of this exercise, what does Oklahoma City have to do to win this series? Not just against Oklahoma City, although it's been holy crap bad. The Mavs going on runs against the Thunder, 30-0 type runs. They're gonna have to try different things on those runs to stop the run. That sounds super easy. It's not super easy, but you can't let this Dallas team go on runs, whether it's a close game and they pull away and there's also not a safe lead in this series. You have to be comfortable. This is more of a mark thing than anything. If you're up 21 and they pull within, 13, against most teams, you're yeah, it's a quick run. That'll get back to 21. Against the Mavs, at 13 turns into 7, into 3, into a tie game. And we've seen that this season. And so you have to be able to adjust on the fly, even when they're up 13 and everything's working. They just went on a quick run to go from 21 to 13. You still have to be willing to get uncomfortable and muck things up during those runs, because they will continue.
Another thing that I think is super important in this series that OKC is going to have to execute if they want to win. The Mavs defense is good, right? It's vastly improved after the trade deadline. But I watched a handful of those Mavs versus Clippers games. The Clippers offense is kind of dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's
not great.
Here you go, Harden. We're going to put 4 guys in the corner and let Harden do his thing. Here you go, PG. Just ISO for the next 15 seconds. I think the Thunder need to get the blender going and get it turned up and play that drive and kick and back screen and flare screen and do this and that. Be the creative offensive team you've been. You cannot allow yourself to resort to that isolation basketball. The Thunder have done a really good job by not doing that. I thought Shea got to it a little bit in game 4. But the best game of the series, game 2, when they just blitzed them, that's what they did. I mean, the pinnacle of that is the one highlight that's stuck out from that entire series. Josh Chet pick and roll. Josh flips the ball over his head to Chet, swings it to Aaron Wiggins, who drops CJ, drives in, kicks to J-Dub, drives in, kicks to a cutting Aaron Wiggins because the defense is all kinds of scrambled, and you get a wide open layup at the rim. Drive, kick, layup. That's what you have to do against this good defense. If you just let 5 pairs of eyes watch the ball, the Dallas defense has become too good. So I think the Thunder have to stick to their offensive identity and trust that process of what they've had all year, and don't resort to the give it to Shea and get out of the way, because that ain't going to work.
Yep. I completely agree. And I think part of that is maybe looking further down the roster at the role players. I think you need to be able to count on guys to hit shots. We've talked a lot about the top of the roster, but relying on guys like Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe and Jay Will, even in those minutes that they get on the floor, they need to be consistent threats to keep everybody honest. We know what we're going to get out of Shea and Dub and Giddey and Chet. Most likely, not every night, but you know what you're going to get, and Dallas knows what they're going to get, and they're going to have a plan. It's those other guys that can swing a game here and there. It's not going to be Isaiah Joe going for 20 every night, but it is going to be the opportunities where he gets an open shot to make the defense second guess. And that's what's made OKC lethal this season and made a guy like Shea so lethal, is when you can't take a step off anybody else on the floor, you can't stop Shea. He's too hard to guard one-on-one. It's as soon as you can start to throw doubles at him and you know some of the other guys on the floor aren't going to make you pay for that decision, then the Oklahoma City offense becomes a lot easier to guard. So you need that contribution from everybody else in order to make the guys at the top be able to succeed as much as they can.
All right. I think I'm going next. How many have we all gone through? Are we
I don't know.
3 each?
I'm not counting as hard.
I've been through 2.
Does anybody else have anything else they want to drop real quick before we recap all of our points and choose the top 3?
Yes. Let me just drop this one. This one, it's not going to win. Let's just be honest. But I do want to say it. Let's take the lid off of the J. Will minutes. He doesn't get as many minutes as I sometimes would like. I think he's been playing super, super well in a series like this where Dallas is longer, athletic at the forward positions, at the center position. I would love to see him play more. Especially over a guy like Gordon Hayward. Just to say that name about like this.
I'll give you a counterpoint.
I also disagree.
I agree with all. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm giving the exact same argument, but instead of J. Will, it's Kenrich.
I'll buy
can see
that.
that a lot too.
I'll take either of them over Gordon Hayward if that's the discussion we're having.
Maybe
I'll
that's
take
easy.
Justin over Gordon
Easy.
Hayward.
Maybe
Justin will get up
coach.
more than one shot in 4 games, I bet.
Oh, you bet I will.
That's the real.
We're going to talk all this shit, and game 1, Gordon's going to have like 15.
No, he won't.
No.
No, yeah.
The Buddy Hield game.
What
The Buddy Hill
odds,
game.
what odds would you have to get in order to place $20 on Gordon going for 15 plus in a game?
Well, if I told you the odds, you would know what they meant.
There are no odds.
That's
I've never made
true.
a parlay
He's never-
in my life. I've never made a parlay in my life.
There are no
I would put
odds. I
that-
would just need an injury report that like the first 11 people on the Thunder's roster have been deceased over the weekend.
Correct. I would put that at like plus 1,000 right now, honestly.
Bro,
Very
He's wearing
unlikely.
No.
a shot collar for
Yeah,
this game. If he doesn't shoot at least once every 5 minutes, it will
Zap.
shock him.
Zap.
Plus 1,000 is insane. Yeah, I need way more than that.
Way more?
Yes.
Is 1,000 10 to 1 on your money?
Yeah.
What do those numbers mean?
You just never get those
So
kind of
what
stats
that
with
basically
NBA.
means is like you're saying that Gordon Hayward will score 15 points 1 of every 10 games. I don't think that's the case. I need better odds.
If,
Give me
if
1 in
I'm putting
20.
$20 down, I need to win 500 to make that bet.
So you need
I'd
like
want more than that.
plus 2,500 probably.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, fair. I just think Jay Will is going to struggle a bit more in the series, as great as he's played, just because you mentioned the versatility and athleticism of the Dallas Bigs. And Jay Will's an awesome player who's been playing so well, and I sung his praises during Series 1 against the Pelicans, but he is not quick laterally or defensively. And I think that'll be an issue. That being said, if you play him alongside Chet, that maybe could be one solution to keep Chet around the rim and not get pulled out to the perimeter. That's something to keep an eye on.
That's
But
true.
I think it's more likely, to Justin's point, that we see more Kenrich going small ball to counter the Mavericks going big with their athleticism.
What about flip side of the court? If they do run that zone, I mean, Jay Will is a great player to be that center free throw line extended guy to catch and redirect. One of the better passers on the team. I don't think Jay Will sees a lot of minutes this series because of that, but I could see him earning those minutes, especially he plays like exclusively drop D. I could see that coming in handy with those lobs.
Yep.
Just let him drop and try to suck up that airspace.
This is an aside. Tell me if this is a hot take or not. The way that people talk about Derek Jones Jr. is how they should be talking about Aaron Wiggins. Am I
Do
off base
people
on that?
talk about Derek Jones Jr.?
Well, Silva. Should we go there?
Yeah.
I mean, the only difference is Aaron Wiggins wasn't built in a lab to defend SGA. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Great reference.
For what it's worth, I think Shea's gonna.
I think he's
almost
gonna
cashed in my
cook
card
him.
for the series. I think Shea's
Oh,
gonna cook him.
On the tip of your tongue.
If healthy. I'm still a
almost as
little
bad as
worried
Nick
about that quad.
pulling out the card for the consent form. Still, maybe my favorite pod moment. That and the little boy moment are like S tier
The
pod
little
moments
boy
for me.
moment.
Oh, yeah,
What was the
that's-
first moment?
Without context, it sounds like I'm Drake. All right, JD, will you recap our points so we can choose the top 3, please?
Yeah.
Good luck, Silva.
Yeah. You know, we didn't do a great job of like
Making points.
saying, here's my point. All right, here is my point. We just kind of had a conversation and I had to just like write an outline a little bit. We have, you know what?
Silva gonna ask one of us to copy our notes. What is this?
We have perimeter defense, and then we had defense as a whole, which we could just say, I don't know how you want. We have pick and roll, how each team approaches pick and roll. Nick had that one, I believe. We had keeping Josh Giddey involved. We had Chet's offense, keep Dallas from going on runs, trusting their offensive process, role player production, J. Will minutes. You know, did I miss anything?
No, my first vote for one of our top 3 is the pick and roll defense. I think that encompasses what me, Justin, and Taylor were all kind of talking about. Don't let the other guys go off. Contain the perimeter, yada, yada, yada. I think a lot of that comes down to, can you contain the ball with Kyrie and with Luka whenever they are running ball screens? If you can do that and not make other people come over and help, that shores up your perimeter defense because you're not cheating, and it helps you drop back on those lobs. I think pick and roll defense should make the list because I think it encompasses most of our defensive conversation.
Agreed.
So what's number 2? Which one of those things jumps off the page? Like the Thunder really need this in order to win the series.
I liked Nick's point about not letting Dallas go on runs. That seems to happen like in a lot of games against them.
Like 30-0.
Yeah.
Ill advised.
For a specific example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
I think especially on the road, that's going to be big. Like having been in the building for said 30-0 run. Now, granted, they won that game, so maybe it's not all bad. But like that crowd is going to be intense in both arenas. And Luka and Kyrie really play off the energy of the crowd when they're in Dallas. And so I think for the Thunder to be able to control this series, you don't want to get swept up in that. And I think that much like Russ used to do in Oklahoma City, like Luka can amp up the crowd and really feed off it, and it can feel like an avalanche. So I think that one, like when they get going on runs, it can start to feel overwhelming. I think Daignault does a pretty good job usually of managing that with timeouts and things like that. But I definitely think controlling the flurries against this Mavericks team is going to be big.
I like that. And I think I have our third. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, unfortunately, I only gave you guys 2 and you picked them both. I would have given a third if you wanted the third big theme, but
what an honor for you.
Unbelievable. This guy comes in late after watching his stars, feeling all high.
I think going back to the defensive thing, one number that's kind of jumped out to me is Thunder thrive off turnovers and transition basketball. The Mavs don't turn the ball over very much. They sometimes play at a little bit of a slower pace with Luka as well. What gives there? Like, it's got to lean one way or the other. I would almost bet whichever way it leans per game is who wins. But I think that goes into our defensive conversation as well.
I actually looked that up, Jacob. I'm with you there for sure. The third one, I want to throw this out there and see if you guys agree. I'm actually combining a couple of them into like an overall theme that I think we can use as our third big takeaway. And that is who
defense,
is going to
offense,
defense, who can
coaching.
score more, who scores less. Role player stepping up is one that one of you all had. I had Chet specifically. So I think maybe the third big takeaway we can take away from everything that we threw out there is who was able to step up outside of Shea and Dub when they're being the focal points of the Mavericks defense.
Shocked to hear you call Chet a role player.
You know what I mean.
Peripheral.
I love Taylor's
combining
phrase.
the two themes.
The third takeaway that we can take away from this.
That we can take away.
It's incredible. I think that's fair because we talked about Josh, we talked about Chet.
Yeah.
You probably really need like a good Isaiah Joe series. So yeah, I think getting more out of your role players and your deep bench versus the Mavs, not so deep bench, because I don't think they're playing Markieff Morris.
I hope they do.
I don't. Think
I hope they do too.
Tim Hardaway Jr.'s health is still kind of up in the air. I'm kind of okay with Tim Hardaway Jr. playing because he feels like the guy that can like totally shoot you out of a game.
Yes. Tim Hardaway loves Tim Hardaway time.
That's fair.
And apparently he is close to being back because there was one of the Mavericks reporters, I think it was Tim Cato, the Athletic, mentioned that he was out there doing drills and running through practice, so he'll probably be available.
Interesting. So we have contain the ball in the pick and roll. That helps out your entire defense. That's point number one. Point number two was
stop the runs.
Stop the runs. It's good advice whenever you have diarrhea. It's good advice
That's exactly
against the Dallas Mavericks. Number three, trust your bench, trust your offense, and let some of the other guys carry that offensive burden. I like it. Let's flip the coin to the other side. If the Thunder are to lose this series, what are the three things that have to happen, injury and fluke stuff aside, that allow the Mavs to win this series and forces OKC to lose it? We're not going to spend nearly as much time on this. Number one, just for time's sake, and number two, I just don't think we're a Thunder podcast, so we try to focus on the Thunder stuff. But let's popcorn a few thoughts here. I'll start with a very basic one.
Defense.
If Luka and Kyrie are the two best players in the series, I don't think the Thunder win. Even if the Thunder have player number 3, 4, and 5, I think if Luka and Kyrie are both better than Shea and J-Dub, it's going to be maybe not a long series. You have to have Shea be at Shea level and Dub be at Dub level. You can't let those two guys be the two best players in the series. If that happens, Mavs win.
I will go with, how do I phrase it? Force Oklahoma City shot makers to be shot makers. That's so backwards, but like Shea and Dub are both guys, and there's others too, that can like get to their spots and get a shot when they need to. What makes this team so good is that they don't often need to. They can get it within the flow of the offense. Oklahoma City scores a ton of points on, backdoor cuts and off the screen, opening guys up, rhythm shots. They like J-Dub and Shea both get to their spots when they want to. But like if they get in situations where they're down 11 and they have to get to their spots, and it's up to those two guys and the pressure is on. I just think that's something they haven't seen yet. We think about like youth and inexperience and big moments. It's one of those moments we still didn't see in the first round of like, hey, Dub and Shea, you have to go get shots here or this team's not going to win.
That's
a recipe for success for Dallas, is forcing them into those situations.
The irony of that is that's kind of that third point that we put in the last segment is right. If Dallas forces OKC to rely on that versus if OKC can, I guess, get that from their supporting players, it's a very fine line. I think for me, on one of the big keys in this series, can Dallas make OKC pay for the lack of heft in size? We heard so much about it heading into the New Orleans series. Oh, Jonas Valanciunas got 50 pounds on Chet, blah, blah, blah. But like, cool. You can have 20 rebounds, but you're not impacting the game in a positive fashion when you suck up the play clock to back somebody down in the paint, or when you can't convert the second chance opportunities. Great. Take as many offensive rebounds as you want, but if you're shooting 28%, that's not going to work out for you. I think the difference in this series is Gafford and Lively could make Oklahoma City pay for that size more than New Orleans was able to do. I think it's a big could. Like, as good as Dallas has played, they've had some stinker shooting nights in that last series, or at least shooting halves. So like, okay, great. If you're getting good looks and if you're getting second chance boards, you got to convert those. And if they can, that becomes tough. I think that's been the blueprint to taking advantage of OKC's size. And I think it's a nuanced take, more nuanced than you usually get in the national media narrative surrounding the Thunder, of just like looking at height and weight of the roster and being like, well, Oklahoma City doesn't have a chance here. You've got to make do with that advantage. And if they can do that, I think that becomes a tough hill to climb for Oklahoma City.
I think
Quick trivia real fast. So we're talking like size, offensive rebounding, second chance points. 16 teams in the playoffs, right? 8 of them are now gone. Ranking them 1 to 16 based off offensive rebounds per game. Where do you think Dallas ranks? If you know the answer, if you've seen the stat, don't.
Oh, man.
What do you think? They played 6 games. What's their offensive rebound like? Are they first out of the 16 playoff teams? Just in the playoffs, not for the season.
Yeah.
They're top 3.
Anyone else want to throw a guess out there?
Because you're asking, I'm going to go the other way and say they're like 11.
That's the way you worded that question made me want to do that too. But the way Nick answered it made me think that he knows.
Nick said it very confidently.
He did.
Agreed.
They are
I would
fourth.
lean with
Fourth.
Okay.
Well,
They are fourth.
Yeah.
Where was New Orleans?
Towards the end, like
I'd say
15?
middle.
New Orleans was third.
There you go.
There it is. Well
Deceiving.
Right?
For sure.
They're-
That's, I still
they're-
think, an
done.
interesting
That's
point.
Justin's point.
I think they're like
that's Justin's
like
point.
9th or 10th in offensive rebound percentage, though. So deceiving.
Sure.
But
But like, offensive rebounds it's not a straight correlation to victory, like a lot of the narratives would have you believe.
Agreed.
I think a key component of that, Justin, is that the Thunder are going to need to keep Chet around the rim. So one of my points is that if the Mavericks are able to pull Chet out to the perimeter, I think that is bad news for OKC. They're going to do everything they can, especially after watching the film on Series 1 against the Pelicans, to bring Chet out on the perimeter and get him guarding in space rather than having him around the basket to get those blocks and some of those rebounds and second chance opportunities that you alluded to. No Maxi Kleber for the Mavericks obviously helps there. He was playing a big role for the Mavericks in their first series against the Clippers when he was playing some 5 and is able to space the floor.
I think what was bigger for them was putting Maxi at the 4 with one of those bigs. That really
One of the
helps
other
your
bigs.
rebounding. Because they
And
won't
also
play those two
spacing.
bigs together.
Yeah.
True. But Chet's going to have to be in a position to recover and to be able to get back to the rim. And that means the defensive rotations from OKC are going to have to be crisp. And they're just going to have to give Chet a shot to be able to recover around the rim and be able to contest those shots at the rim when you have players like Luka and Kyrie who are so good at getting there, as well as some of the things we already have alluded to, like those bigs who are so good at cutting off ball and those big time backdoor dunks that we see from the Mavericks. Keeping Chet around the rim is going to be big for the Thunder, but the Mavericks are going to do everything they can to get him out on the perimeter and away from the rim.
For sure. I think they do that by forcing OKC to switch. That's what they did against the Clippers, and they made Zubats get out there and like switch and guards.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, a big key for Dallas. Any other?
One more for me. It was the same as last series. Pace. Like you said, Lucas slows things down sometimes. I think Dallas probably plays better at a slower pace. Oklahoma City wants to run and gun. First round, Oklahoma City played with a lot more pace. Could be matchup dependent. I don't know, but I think that's going to be something in this round.
For what it's worth, people in the chat are saying, let him switch. Chet can guard in the perimeter. I'm not saying he can't. I'm saying if you bring Chet out, you don't have much size to go in and contest for rebounds on the inside. Yep. Flip side, on the Thunder side, I think J-Dub averaged like 7 or 8 rebounds a game in the playoffs when he averaged like 4 during the season. They need more J-Dub on the glass.
I have a couple. I have kind of the inverse of one of my points. One of my keys to victory is you can't, if the Giddey thing or even the Hayward thing is not working, you can't stay committed to it for too long. I think that's kind of obvious, but if they're if Josh is only taking threes, like if that's what they've limited him to, and he's missing them all, you can't just let him keep taking them. Like you can't let that be the theme of the game. Another one, you can't go on tilt, can't get pissed off at Luka, because I think that's going to happen at some point. Like he's going to annoy all the fans.
I was going to say, are you just talking about the people on this podcast right now, or
Don't get baited by Luka.
He's going to annoy the players. That goes with the slow pace thing Nick was just talking about, where Luka's going to get foul calls that the players hate. He's going to yell at refs. It's going to get annoying. You just can't let him get under your skin. Play your game.
Do you prefer, maybe a philosophical question, do you prefer, from an Oklahoma City standpoint, to play a pissed off, angry Luka or a not pissed off, angry Luka?
That's a good question.
If he's mad and complaining to the refs, I think that's a positive sign.
Agreed. Especially when I watched him
Get in
last
his head a little
series
bit.
lay on the floor and complain about a call, and it led to a Clippers.
And a lot of times that means he's not getting back.
The type of pissed off is important. It's this is not an original comparison, but like the Luka Russ comparison, like good pissed off Russ in his prime was terrifying. He would eat your soul and dunk on it. And bad pissed off Russ was like the best news for opposing teams, because he's going to be overly aggressive. Yeah. He's going to look to feast on one-on-one matchups. He's not going to get back. He's going to be overly aggressive on defense. He's going to force shots. Luka can do a lot of those same things too when he gets in those types of modes. I think you're going to see a little bit of both in the series. Like it just feels Lou Dort could piss off a nun. Like I think that it's gonna.
Let me get that as a sounder. 47-20.
I was about to say. That's amazing.
I would like to put in my personal petition for Lou Dort mic'd up segment in this series. Like I just need to know, does the guy talk like Haitian trash to Luka? Because I would like to hear it.
Last one I will throw in is for the Mavs to win the series. Use OKC's aggression or physicality against them. Draw those fouls. We know Luka is a foul baiter. He's a free throw merchant. He is going to use Lou Dort's physicality and Lou Dort's aggression against him. So if you are the Mavs, that is a key to victory. Get to the line. All right, JD, you want to tell us what all of our these have to happen for OKC to lose the series, and we can choose 3?
Yep, here's the recap. We have if Luka and Kyrie are the 2 best players in the series. We have force OKC shot makers to be shot makers. We have Dallas making OKC pay for their lack of size, like how New Orleans was not able to. We have Chet being away from the rim and not able to block shots and contest all the time. We have the Mavs slow pace, throwing the Thunder off. We have not being too committed if something like Giddey or Hayward or whoever else. Don't be too committed if it's not working. We have just don't get pissed off just in general. We have foul trouble.
Kind of feel like we got to lead off with the size advantage that the Mavericks have. That's the big talking point. That's been a big key that everybody wants to harp on with the Thunder all season, even heading into the playoffs.
I think that's
I like that one.
Did you say that one?
No, that was Justin's.
Okay, I thought Taylor was picking his own thing. We have to start off with. It's like, okay.
Offensive rebounds for New Orleans was Valanciunas attempted putback. Offensive rebounds for the Mavs is a kick out to an open Luka or Kyrie for a 3.
Yeah,
very different. I think that's fair.
I liked the don't get caught up like in the same thing and be like the Josh Giddey. Like if he's missing threes, don't just let him shoot 6 more and ride it out. Like it's okay to change things up, which is kind of the opposite or maybe more the complementary of the first segment where it was like it's okay to change things up amidst a run. This is one of those examples of like, go ahead and mix it up. It's not working. I think that's super important.
For sure. So I think that kind of goes into the make their role players beat you. That's kind of what Nick said. Make their role players, like that's how Dallas wins, is if they force Josh to shoot 8 threes a game and it goes poorly.
Yep.
Agreed.
So then what's number 3?
I feel like it does have to be if Luka and Kyrie are the two best players. Like I think that's what makes Dallas so scary with the remaining teams in the playoffs. That's always been their ceiling, right? As high as that duo can go, so the entire team goes. And that's why their tenure up until lately has been a bit questionable, because they hadn't quite reached this level yet. So it feels like things are starting to click, especially with Kyrie. It feels like he's really finding his groove. If that groove continues, OKC could be in trouble.
I like it. All right. We've given our 3 keys to victory for the series for the Thunder. The 3 things that happen that allow the Mavs to win the series. Let's take our first break of the night. That's late for our first break of the night. We'll come back. We'll wrap up some of our series thoughts, and then we will look ahead at projecting some of the series in the second round and looking at our predictions updates. We will be right back. And we are back in honor of the series and our favorite chicken spot in OKC. Let's do our hot takes for the second round. Before we do that, though, we got to tell you about Dave's Hot Chicken. The East Hollywood pop-up sensation turned fast casual superstar Dave's Hot Chicken is now serving Oklahoma in Bricktown, Edmond, and coming soon to Chisholm Creek. The Chisholm Creek one might be open now. I don't know that for sure. Don't quote me. Their mouth-watering sliders and tenders are offered at 7 spice levels, ranging from no spice at all to Reaper, and each piece is hand-breaded and spiced to order using a blend crafted specifically for its heat level or no spice at all, along with house-made slaw, creamy mac and cheese, crispy fries, and you can try the new Dave's Not Chicken. Those are cauliflower slices that taste just like Dave's Hot Chicken, but they're not. They're cauliflower. Visit Dave's Hot Chicken in Bricktown right next to Fuzzy's Taco Shop Tuesday on your way to Game 1 of Round 2 of the playoffs. Gentlemen, we need some hot takes for the series. One from each of you. If you are in the chat tonight, drop your hot take for the series by tagging it hot take and then like a dash or a colon and then put what you think. And we will read some of our favorite ones here in a moment. Who's leading us off?
I can go. And you know what? Just feel free to call me a piece of shit if this is too weak, okay? It's the playoff series. It's the playoff preview. I tried to come in hot, and, you know, this might not be hot enough. Here it is. Josh Giddey scores at least 23 points in at least 2 games this series. So he scores 23 in at least 2 games in this best of 7 series.
After what I saw in Game 4, closeout fourth quarter, I can't go extra hot. I feel like medium's a little like low. I'll go hot.
Hot's what I had. I love that you added on 2 games this series. I think that's key.
I was at 20 points, and right before the show, I just added a 3.
For context, the highest scoring output he had in the Pelican series was 21.
Okay.
I'm gonna okay.
That was just context for the listeners, not for me.
Okay. I feel better.
I'm gonna go extra hot.
I'm going extra hot given the context.
Who's got our next take?
I can go. This is not gonna sound crazy, but I want you to think about it before you give me your scale of heat.
I tend to just open my mouth, Nick.
Okay.
Not much thinking involved.
Oh,
Another great
This is my
sounder.
hot take.
Oh, God.
okay.
Damn it.
All right. My hot take is that there is one game in this series in which J-Dub leads all scorers.
Ooh,
Doesn't sound that hot, and then you think about who's going to be on
Then
the
you think,
floor.
yeah,
pretty hot.
Give me
I agree.
medium.
medium.
See, mine's kind
Medium.
of similar. Mine's kind of similar. I have to go medium as well.
Wow.
Only because,
hot.
I mean, Nick's right. Thinking about Kyrie, Luka, Shea, that would be kind of crazy to see Dub. But at this, like I said,
If that
I like the
happens,
line.
is it like you're pretty damn sure the Thunder won, or is there some like weird thing where it's a blowout, or like you pull up, you black out right now. You wake up and you look at your phone, and the headline on your phone is J-Dub leads all scorers with 42 in game whatever. Is your first thought, oh hell yeah, they won? Or are you like, oh God, what happened?
I think my first thought would be that they won, but I also think back to Russ having like 44 in the finals and a losing effort.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does
that's
J-Dub
really
have
tough.
42 because Shea had 15?
Exactly.
I'm going medium. I
Exactly.
think he could lead all scorers one game in the series.
Also, don't black out during the playoff game, folks.
It's good.
Or
That's
before.
good advice.
Just don't black out. How about that?
Yeah.
Or that.
Anyone else
You know,
giving a scale for Nick?
Justin, what you got?
Okay.
I'm putting that hot. My hot take is Cason Wallace averages 20 minutes a game in this series.
Give me mild.
Mild.
I'll go medium
Again,
because 20 is a lot.
For context, the most amount of minutes he played in the Pelican series was 19.
Okay.
I think you're going to see Kaysen spend a lot of time on Kyrie.
That's what I think.
Give me
You guys
20.
are taking away my.
You get not give
spark
me
of the
20.
week.
I agree with the 20. Give me mild.
Give me 20 mild. That's
Give
my
me
day's
20
order.
mild. Give me 20 mild tenders, please.
20 is quite a bit because even if he's playing
They
well
are big
defensively
tenders.
against Kyrie, like he's going to have to continue to impact the game offensively. That's probably in between medium and hot. But again, I have that as my spark of the week, so I'll go medium.
I'll go with my favorite seasoning level, medium.
I like it. All right. Mine is a little similar to Nick's, but I took it another step further. Shocker. It's related to J-Dub, as all my hot takes feel like they have been recently. I think at the end of the series, we're looking back on the series amongst all players on both sides. Dub is the third leading scorer in points per game by the end of the series. My thought process on that is that, like I said, there's going to be a lot of defensive effort and attention on Shea from the Mavericks, which leads Dub to really be able to step up. And on the other side, I think one of Kyrie or Luka is going to be shut down for the majority of the series. I'm picking Kyrie due to the combination of Dort and the Thunder's defense.
I have a trivia question for you, Taylor. I'm going to be Jacob here for a second. The only reason I would go hot or extra hot there is because the man has to shoot the ball to lead in scoring. Like
He does.
he didn't take 20 shots one
And
game.
the Thunder
in the
have to
first
play
half.
defense to win the game.
Well, my point is, if you're pinning a guy to be a third leading scorer, you can't take 17, 18 shots a game. That's what he did in the first series. And you might say, well, yeah, they blew him out in the first series. He only took 20 points or 20 shots 6 times in the regular season with a career high of 23. So I don't think he has the inability for your take to happen. I just don't know, is he going to finally take the shots?
I did
It's the
see
volume
something
there.
earlier
That wasn't
today.
trivia.
I
I
was
get to
gonna-
answer.
I was going to ask how many shots.
No, you're right.
Season
You're
high
exactly
was,
right.
but-
That's why it's a hot take. I know.
Nick's
I
the Jeopardy announcer who just read all the answers to all the Jeopardy questions.
I saw
I
a
love
stat
it.
earlier today, and I don't remember the nuances to actually properly cite it. But basically, like J-Dub's usage in that New Orleans series was up pretty significantly compared to his usage in the regular season. So, like, that could be your way in. It's still not, to your point, Nick. Like, the volume of shots still wasn't there, but it was a lot higher in the New Orleans series than in the regular season. I'm going to put this
weird.
at
it is weird.
extra hot because
Yeah.
I just think with the scores that are in this series, that feels like a tall task.
I'll go extra hot also. If this does happen, I'll be saying some crazy shit on this podcast.
I worry
That's the
that,
goal.
kind of going back to Nick's question earlier, I worry that could be a bad thing. If he scores so much, does it mean other guys are like not scoring nearly as much, or they're like making the Thunder very one-dimensional?
Definitely. But on the other end, that means one of Kyrie or Luka it'll probably be Kyrie in this instance. If this comes to fruition, isn't scoring as much either.
Why do you think that?
We've seen Kyrie struggle throughout the regular season. He was absolutely insane in the first round, but they haven't seen a defense. They haven't seen a defense like the Thunder.
When's the last time you saw him struggle in the playoffs?
When was the last time he was in the playoffs? I mean, I guess last year, right?
I mean, like with Brooklyn, he was pretty phenomenal. Like he's been a really
the
good
thing that
playoff
scares me
player.
about Kyrie is that stat. He's like 13-0 now in games where he can close out a series.
Oh, and I think the scariest thing, this is not a hot take, but since we're on the topic, the scariest thing about this series is Luka played horrible in the first round, and they won pretty easily. Like the guy was shooting like high 30s from the field in a lot of games on a bum knee that still may be bum, but still balled out, and they had no problem winning. Like that's scary.
My hot take, before I can give it, I have to ask a question because I don't know.
More trivia.
Does the MVP get announced during the series?
It does
Thursday.
on Wednesday.
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 Yep. They announced MVP on Wednesday.
Yeah.
My hot take. Shea gets announced third in the MVP voting behind Luka and behind Nikola Jokic. And game 2 has the y'all thought I was third game, and the Thunder win by like 15 plus. That is my hot take.
That's
a lot of
strength,
context.
Shea.
I know.
I've been thinking about this as well. I'll give it a medium just because I think Shea probably ends up second, but it would, and that's going to be motivation for either of Shea or Luka. I really think so.
I don't know if it's. I mean, I think I could totally see that scenario for Luka. He comes in third and he's pissed off and he's doing stuff, yelling at the crowd. He's like one of those guys when you watch him play. If you haven't noticed it, now you will, and it'll piss you off. Like when he makes a big shot or does something, he like knows where the camera is, and you can tell he's like acting and like saying things or doing things. He knows the camera's like knows where the camera's at. He's like looking at it.
God, I can't stand that guy.
It's tough. I think he's the kind of guy that he finishes third would have that kind of game. I don't know. I think it would motivate Shea, but I think he'd also be like, doesn't matter. I'm here.
He'd
for
never admit it.
championships
What-
and individual.
I don't think
accolades.
he'll show any emotion.
Yeah.
No.
I tweeted this 2 weeks ago, but Luka's the most likely guy in the NBA to say, "Who do you think you are? I am." And
I feel like he's already said that.
probably has.
I'm going to put this at extra hot. Just there's too many variables to
There's a lot of
confidently rate it otherwise.
That's why it's a hot take, Justin.
Almost a parlay.
It is a parlay of a hot take.
I'll go
I
extra
know
hot also.
about me and parlays. Hey, let's get some of the fan hot takes in here. Start by Texan by Nature. He says, hot take. History tells us that the team with the first seed that swept the first round opponent has a 100% success rate of winning in the second round. He thinks that continues. Where would you guys put this?
Math.
I was going to say.
Statistics, Holmes.
I mean, probably going to get to this.
This is basically asking us to choose the winner of the series.
Yes.
So let's hold off on
Right.
this.
Yes. That's what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
Good question, though, and good stat.
Yeah. Smoot, hot take. Luka shoots under 35% from the field in half the games, thanks to Lou.
That feels medium given what we
I was
saw
going to
in
go
the
medium
Clippers
too,
series.
considering what we saw in the first round.
Exactly.
Plus the knee injury. Yeah.
Yeah,
Medium.
first round he shot in order 35.7. I'm sorry, 42.3, 28%, 41.7, 53%, 34.6%. So 2 out of 5 in the first round, that would have been the case. And Lou Dort was not playing in that series.
Right.
That's why I don't think we see Lou a lot on Kyrie.
I agree. Curtis, hot take. Chet and Gordon Hayward both have a 30-piece this series.
Sign the petition, my brother.
Is there
That's
a step
right,
above
Reaper.
a Reaper?
Curtis is walking into the Dave's Hot Chicken after just smoking some crank. This man is high.
Right.
We love you, Curtis. Thanks for being in the show. Thunder Chick says, hot take, Luka overdoes the whining and gets ejected from a game. Deserves to get ejected?
That's kind of tough.
I was going to say
Deserves to get ejected? No spice.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Gets ejected, extra hot.
I was
He
going to say
never
the
gets
exact
ejected.
No.
Extra
It's
hot.
insane.
The NBA would not allow that to happen. They'd
Yeah.
eject him and say they'd rescind the ejection. He'd come trotting back out 6 minutes later.
Kind of like, was it Hashim Tabit in the first Harden return game? It's a deep cut, I know.
I don't know.
I don't
I think he
remember
got
that.
tossed and then came back.
You're a sick bastard for
Somebody fact check me on that.
How do you
Smoot's
fact
got
check?
one more in. Hot take. He's been saying it for months. Thunder go to the Western Conference Finals and win.
So they go to the finals. That's another way of saying.
Thunder go to the first, second, and third round. Win them all.
Smoot, it's that's extra hot for me.
Yeah, extra hot now. Less than Reaper because they swept the first round.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same.
All right, we're not going to read the ad for Spark, but I want to ask you guys, what is your spark for this series? This is like, we're talking the underrated, unsung hero, role player step up of the second round for OKC.
It's
Who is
Isaiah
your
Joe
spark?
for me? Isaiah Joe. I think he was kind of introduced to Thunder fans in that Mavericks game. You know, last season, just went completely nuts. I think it would be a nice full circle moment if he stepped up and had. I think we had a comment in a mailbag episode recently where someone was like, "Why hasn't Joe hit 7 threes in a game or 10 threes in a game? Just gone nuclear before." I think this is a good series for that to happen. He is that type of player. He does have that capability, and it would be sick if he did that.
Love that.
That was one of the two that I considered.
I'm going to go with my guy, Aaron Wiggins. I thought Wiggins had some really nice flashes in the New Orleans series. I think when you go look at like the counting stats and the actual numbers, it was smaller than I thought. But I think the impact that he makes when he when he's on the floor is really high. And I think in this series, it feels like he could plug and play into a handful of different matchups. And also, I can't get the experience out of my head from when I went to the game in December in the Mavericks arena. And the guy behind me was very drunk and just shouting ignorant takes about many different subjects. And one of which was they were talking about how they literally didn't know anyone on the Thunder roster other than Shea. And Aaron Wiggins scored a basket. And he said, that guy's played in the G League like last week. And so I'm ready for that guy to get the full Aaron Wiggins experience. And that guy specifically.
Jeez.
Yeah, if anyone knows that guy, tell him.
That guy.
That guy. I am going to go with Kendrick Williams. I can hear the national TV broadcast. This guy's made a real impact tonight. This is a guy that he played 16 minutes the entire of last series. What an adjustment by Mark Daigneault, bringing him in here in round 2 and giving him some. I can just hear it. I think he's going to make an impact.
That was well done. Very well done. I think that was pretty spot on.
I started
Making
we'll
that
hear.
go with the Kevin Harlan voice.
I was going to say, I started crafting a Shaq soundbite in my head where he calls him Kendrick Williams. And
Oh yeah,
almost started laughing.
That Kendrick Williams guy.
I love that. Mine is actually something that you all touched on during the previous segment, but I have Cason Wallace. For all the reasons we already mentioned, his defense is going to be a huge swing factor in this series. We've seen him already guard Kyrie pretty well, and I can even see where he's either closing games or he's at least subbed in for defensive possessions down the stretch for a handful of games in this playoffs to guard Kyrie while Dort is guarding Luka. I think Cason's defense is going to be a huge swing factor for this series, but he's going to have to be able to produce offensively as well, and I hope we see that from him.
We're going to have to make some Dreadhead memes if that happens with the two Dread boys. They're braids, not dreads, but still. Point still stands. Okay, I wanted to go Kaysen, so I'll go with my other guy. Mark Daigneault. You a bad mother effer.
You a
What a
bad
vi-
mother
what
effer.
a
You a bad
video.
mother effer. That was an awesome story by
I'm
Lou Dort
channeling
earlier.
my inner Crane right here. I think Mark is going to make Jason Kidd look like a little boy. Like, I think he's
That's
going to outcoach the hell out of him.
I know this isn't the hot take segment. That's not a hot take.
I know.
I was actually pretty shocked to see the news today that Jason Kidd is expected to be extended. Like,
Yeah. That's what happens whenever your name gets in the rumor mill for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Correct.
Just wait.
You'd have to pay me a lot of money to coach that team.
I want you to watch Jason
'Cause-
Kidd whenever you're watching this series and tell me how many times you see him when his hands are not in his pocket.
Or sitting on the bench.
His hands are in his pocket at all times, not talking to players or like saying do this. It's hands in his pocket, just watching. He's like a fan. He's like been asked post game, why didn't you change this? And he's like, we needed somebody who could have made that call. And it's like, well, it's you. That's the coach. You're Jason Kidd. Your hands are in your pocket.
You make the call.
Yeah.
I'm glad we brought it up here. I tried to like fit it in the earlier segments, but I think Mark taking out for Jason Kidd is going to be a huge theme for this series.
Nick and I had a good eye contact moment right there. Let's go to break. And on the other side,
Chill out.
we will make our predictions and give an update on the standings. We will be right back. All right, we are back. Nick Jordan in the chat said, Coach D squints, J Kidd puts his hands in his pockets. We need a side-by-side of that. That'd be incredible. It is predictions time, but we need an update from round one. Justin, would you please take it away?
With the most enthusiasm and pleasure that I have ever led a predictions update this entire season, we have results from round one of our series predictions. For a refresher, we all picked the series winner and in how many games. You pick the correct winner, you get a point. You pick the correct number of games and the winner, you get 3 points. Drum roll, please. JD Silva, pull the graphic up, which shout out Thunder Chick. She DM'd us this graphic out of nowhere, and it slaps. The most well-organized chart that I've ever seen, which very clearly denotes Nick Crane and JD Silva tied for last.
Damn
with
it.
8 points. Taylor and Jacob tied for the middle with 11 points. And yours truly in first place with 16 points. Just seeking my revenge for coming in dead last for the regular
Justin shows
season.
up during the playoffs. What can we
That's
say?
right. Call me Kyrie Irving.
Are you sure?
No, I actually don't do that.
Anthony,
I will say, I predicted 5 series correct and the number of games, which feels pretty good, especially when Nick was clowning half of my predictions on the show. It feels nice. Feels nice. Also, Nick, I said this to Jacob and JD before we got recording. Nick took issue with the scoring system, even though we all agreed on it on the same show together. I ran the numbers a couple different ways to weight things differently. You're in last in all of them. So take that for data.
That doesn't mean anything. All the ways you wanted to score it, I came in
fake
last.
news.
Literally
Right.
fake news.
Uh-huh.
I do want to call out though, like you look at the Western Conference, we had the exact same teams all across. It's not like it's not like we were crazy different. Like East got a little wonky. I think the East was one of the weirder first round series we've seen a little bit. But yeah, shout out to you. We'll see if it lasts. I don't think it will.
Ooh, I love it. Well, let's make some predictions, boys.
Oh boy.
We cannot fill in Thunder Chick's graphic, but shout out to Thunder Chick. This is dope. Very, very good stuff. So Thunder Chick, keep it up. You got to send us the one for the next round. Gentlemen, it's time to make some predictions. Let's start out east. Matchup that was just decided today. We have the Boston Celtics hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers. Give us your winner and in how many games? I don't care who starts. You go ahead.
Boston in 5.
I'll
got
go next
Boston.
because I have the same thing.
I've got Boston in 6.
I have been debating 5 versus 6 for the last 3 hours. I'm going Boston in 6.
Taylor, you said 6?
Correct.
Give me the brooms.
Oh,
I knew it was coming. Nick, let me ask you this. Regardless, I can't say regardless, because if Cleveland somehow won, it changes the math. If it's 4, 5, or 6, is JB Bickerstaff still the coach of the Cavs next year? Did he save his job with a Game 7 win today?
I think so.
Interesting.
Like,
I kind of lean the other way.
I don't.
Does his front office expect him to win the series?
Absolutely not. They shouldn't.
Then why would?
But
I don't know.
That is your. I mean, they tanked to get that Orlando matchup.
But it's like
they were half away from losing.
What's
Do you
that
think the Lakers expected to beat the Nuggets in the first round? No, but the way you did it was pretty rough.
They sucked. We knew they sucked. The Cavs had long stretches of really good basketball this year when healthy. They don't have Jared Allen right now. Like, how's that conversation go? You know what, JB? You won the first round series. You lost the one we didn't think you should have won. But that first round, you should have won it in 5, not 7. Like, that's why you're getting fired?
I think it's more just
scapegoat again.
Big picture, and something's got to change there, I think, because I feel like they've underachieved pretty drastically from what I thought they were going to do.
When healthy, they are phenomenal.
Keep an eye on Donovan Mitchell. That is the key for the Cavs offseason.
The other Eastern Conference semifinal, the New York Knicks will host the Indiana Pacers. The Knicks are going to play like 6 guys, 48 minutes. You're not even allowed to do that. They'll probably try. The Pacers have Tyrese Halliburton as like questionable with back spasms. How do we got this one going, guys?
I've got Knicks. Wait, he's questionable with back spasms?
He's been questionable like the entire first series.
Okay. Knicks in 6. How about that?
Ooh.
Hop on pop.
Yeah.
I've got Knicks in 5. I think they dominate the series. It won't be nearly as hard as the first series. But Indiana, the Pacers are due to get one probably at home. Don't think it'll be a sweep, but I think the Knicks pretty much dominate the series.
Give me Knicks in 5. As much fun as Knicks in 6 is fun to say. Knicks in 5. Please pick another sweep.
Nick was going to go Knicks in 5. I could see it in his face. And now he's like, I kind of want to switch it up.
I'm like playing the game here. I kind of have to go different if I'm going to
find
my way out of this.
I could see
Pacers in 4.
I say it.
Say it.
You want to go with the Knicks sweep. I know you do.
Give me Knicks in 7. I think it's more likely than a sweep, so I got to be different. That's the way I'm going to go.
I'll go Knicks in 6 as well. So game 6 would be on the road for them, yeah?
Kyrie's better get it going.
Yeah, game 6 would be on the road. Yeah, give me Knicks in 6. We already made our predictions for this one.
Unfortunately.
Because game 1 has already happened. But let's go out west, where the Minnesota Timberwolves are on the road for the first 2 in Denver. What did you guys predict for this one Saturday morning?
I don't remember. I'm looking that
Nuggets,
up.
Nuggets in 6.
Oh,
same.
Nuggets
in 6.
I had Nuggets in 7, but I went back and forth all week on this series. And I wanted to take the Timberwolves in 7. I ended up with Denver in 7. But I still feel pretty confident in that. I think the Nuggets will also still win at home from the Timberwolves.
How much do you think about basketball? Like, I've been thinking about this all week.
Too much. Way too much.
I went Nuggets in 6, and I got to tell you guys, I don't feel great about it now. That means they got to win 4 of the next 5.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably saying the same thing after Clippers-Mavs game 1. Things change quickly.
That's fair, but
Yep.
Minnesota is really good.
They're really good.
Minnesota is very, very good.
They are.
All right. It's time for what the people want.
Mm-hmm.
Thunder hosting the Mavericks. Chat, get your predictions in now. It's time. Gentlemen, give us the team, the games, and give us one big take. Can't be play good defense or play good offense, Taylor. Has to be a little more nuanced.
Can't be our hot take either.
No.
All right. Thunder in 6. My take, Josh Giddey,
Do your job. We can just go in line down how we're kind of set up in the stream here. We can save the Dallas in 5 for Knicks at the end. I am not trying to copy Silva. I'm going Thunder in 6 as well. My take is split at home, split on the road. Game 5 at home, they win. They close it out in Dallas. Game 6, the airport is hopping. You do not want to let Kyrie get to that game where he can close you out. I think they prevent that from happening. They never let Dallas get to the 3-game threshold. And I've got to pick the Thunder because it's the Thunder podcast. So I'm going Thunder in 6. But specifically, split at home, split on the road, win 5, win 6. It's over.
I've thought about this all weekend. Right, Taylor? I kind of have, though. Like, I think this one is I think that the betting lines are indicative of kind of how the general public feels about this series. It could.
What's the betting line say?
I'll let someone else smarter than me explain it.
I looked it up
I've
earlier.
never
I
made
don't
a
have
parlay
it.
in my life.
It's a toss-up.
It's a toss-up, but it has swung dramatically.
I don't know if that's actually true. I think somebody misposted the odds because that's like been a big controversy. Like even before the Maxi news, it swung like in a weird way of the initial posting. What it is today is basically Oklahoma City slightly favored, but they also have an extra home game, so it's really a toss-up.
Yeah,
I think I saw Thunder minus 120 at one point. I don't know, somewhere in there.
You got to remember that the Vegas books sway with what people are betting on because they got to like hedge themselves, make money. So like it's not truly at all times what do they think is going to happen? It's like where do we need to hedge
based on where
ourselves
the
and get
money's
some
coming.
money? Yeah.
Yep.
I've never made a parlay in my life.
I've heard that before. I'm going Dallas in 6.
Ooh.
I think
hell.
I think this series is going to make my heart swell and shrink repeatedly. I think
Just your heart?
Easy.
It was in 6, probably just as
Easy. I think
bust.
I think there are so many just big time players in this series that as stressful as moments were in that New Orleans series, we're about to get a whole different level of it. I think Kyrie is going to have me cursing at my television. I think Lou Dort is going to have Mavericks fans cursing at their television. I think Luka is going to have me drop kicking my television. I think there's going to be some just absolutely bonkers performances on both sides. And it's going to be one of those series that like ends in 6, but like we were just talking with the betting line, like it's a toss-up. Like anybody can win this series. It's going to be a handful of plays here and there that decided. I don't think there's going to be any blowouts across those 6 games. But I think Mavericks close it out at home in Dallas in game 6.
I've got Thunder in 7. I think it's going to be an absolute grind of a series. A lot of what you alluded to, Justin. But I think my takeaway was going to be similar to Jacob's. I think they split a home and home to start the series. Specifically, I think the Mavericks win game 1 of this series. Thunder are coming off rest. They aren't going to be sharp. The world's going to be falling on Thunder fans. And then the Thunder respond accordingly in game 2. Also in game 3, we see the Mavericks respond in game 4. And they just go back and forth until the Thunder are back home, close it out in game 7.
Game 7 in Paycom would be wild.
It'd be sick.
So fun.
And I do think there will be a game 7. That's where I'm going here. I don't think it'll be wild when the final buzzer happens, though. I'm taking Mavs in 7. My take, I think is what you asked for, is while the national media hype is around Shea and Luka, I think that the beef that forms in this series as this like potential rivalry kind of blooms, it's going to be Chet and Luka that jaw each other all series long.
I like it.
That's awesome.
For what it's worth, and you can call this coping because it's 100% like pre-coping. If the Thunder lose this series, which is very possible, like they're the young team here. They're the one that had like Kyrie's played in a finals game 7. Luka's played in a ton of series. Like the Mavs have a lot more of that experience. I think we'd all agree as long as the Thunder like get one game. Is it disappointing when they lose? Yeah. But you look back at the 2023-2024 season, and you say, holy shit, that was an awesome season. What a stepping stone to the future.
Totally.
Even if they lose, it's not the worst thing in the world. But
they're ahead of schedule, no matter like what way you want to spin it. I saw people going back and forth on Twitter today without any nuance, as Twitter is best at. And I think that, like, yes, you can say Shea is an MVP candidate. The Thunder are the 1 seed, and they may not be the best team left in the playoffs. Like those things, you can hold those things together and they can all be true. And it doesn't make your argument invalid. And I kind of think that's where we're at. The Thunder have been awesome. They're probably going to still be awesome in this series. No matter which way it falls, you can't say this season was anything but a success.
I was asked that on the Sports Animal yesterday, and I said something very similar. So long as the Thunder are competitive in this next series, I think that is an absolute success for this season. Still be incredibly disappointing if they lose. Nick, I was also asked who is going to be the villain of this series. Is it going to be the low-hanging fruit in Luka? I'm going to throw out a sleeper here. I think Thunder fans are going to learn to hate PJ Washington. There's going to be some jawing back and forth between him and Thunder players. Keep an eye on that.
You have to be good to be hated as a villain. And PJ Washington is a
not necessarily. Look at Draymond.
Look at Pat Bev.
I just want there to be one post game where we get on here where we get like maybe 3 beers deep, angry Nick Crane. That might be the best podcast in uncontested history. Like it's a Thunder win where they like punked on Luka at the end, like beat him defensively. And Nick gets on here like not drunk, but like just feeling himself. Got a drink in hand in the post-game pod. That's my dream.
Well,
there we go.
See. But as it relates to PJ Washington, I don't think he's a bad player, but I just like I just think about the trade deadline when Mavs fans are posting images of him photoshopped in a Mavs jersey with Luka and Kyrie saying the big 3 has been assembled. Like, bruh, PJ Washington is a big 3. Get out of here.
I think that'll do it for us, boys.
A wise man once said, "Mother F the big 3."
Hey,
full circle.
We say it'll be okay if the Thunder lose because they're a young team, but I will be in a full-on like Joker.
I'm not saying I'll enjoy it in the time.
Oh no.
Oh, the off-season discourse nationally will be so obnoxious. Who are the Thunder going to trade for?
Yeah,
so we'll play that after music.
Face paint if that happens on the park.
They lose, you get Silva in the face paint. They win, you get Silva in the Whataburger bandana. The great JD giveth and the great JD taketh away. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We had a ton of people in the live stream for our playoff predictions. If you are watching this YouTube video at a later date, please drop in the comments below what your prediction is for this series. We'd love to hear it. Also, give us your take or your big key to victory for the Thunder. We love reading those throughout the week. We will be back here Tuesday night after game number 1. That'll be right around 11 p.m., I believe, because it tips at 8:30. You guys enjoy Monday. If you're in Oklahoma, stay safe, stay weather aware. It's supposed to get pretty gnarly on Monday, but clear skies for an ass whooping on Tuesday, baby. As we leave, I need one take from each of you. Our parting 5-second thought. When the Thunder win this in 5, what is the first thing you say on the postgame show, JD?
Fellas.
Dang it. You took my
Justin, what is not your intro? What is the first thing you say on the podcast when the Thunder win in 5?
I love being wrong.
Taylor?
I don't even know. It'll come in the moment.
Nick?
Switching shoes.
Why am I a character in Taylor's dream?
I will say finals bound, baby. Have a great Monday. Stay safe. Stay weather aware. We will see you Tuesday at 11 p.m. Hopefully after a Thunder win. Until then, and as always, Thunder up.